wonder why Scientology even needs a secretive investigation branch, being a church and all? You ever wonder why people stay in Scientology? We're going to take a look at their wins written by actual Scientologists. And in other news, Tom Cruise's family is a mess. Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult, where we talk about Scientology news. It has the internet buzzing, and we get into some other cult stuff, too, which we've been doing recently, and I'm totally here for it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for the members being here and chiming in there in the chat. Great to see you, and big thank you to the moderators helping out today. I appreciate it so much. We need that, especially when we get into things like Scientology and cults and my 35 years in this cult, leaving with 3 generations of my family. There's just so much to cover and talk about. But we are going to start where we've been starting lately. I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of sick of talking about Tom Cruise. But people keep sending me the articles, so let's talk about it a little bit. Now, there's a little bit of a twist coming out because we know that because of Scientology and Disconnection, Tom Cruise hasn't been, really doing anything that we know of when it comes to Suri. And now the recent news has been about how his older kids allegedly don't exist to daughter Suri due to their Scientology faith, which is a little bit of a different way of looking at it, which I feel like we haven't really talked about. Suri Cruise has allegedly cut ties with her older siblings, allegedly. But can you imagine the position that she's in? I mean, even the other kids that they're in, it's so messy. The more we hear about this, the more articles that come out talking about this, the more we're seeing how messy the situation is. Sometimes I think, life is complicated. People marry, people divorce, blended families. It's all hard enough without adding in a cult. Add into it a cult. Think about if you've ever been divorced or you've done a blended family. It can be challenging. I think it's a beautiful thing when families can come together and exes can work together. I'm very fortunate to have wonderful exes in that way. We share children, we've done trips together. It's like we've maintained that sense of family through the cult, leaving the cult, and having a blended family throughout the years. So it just makes me wonder, why is it so hard for Tom Cruise and his family? And really, I think it's because he follows Scientology to the letter. He sees people as an us versus them, even the people that he's supposed to be helping, and already thinks he knows anything and everything, right? When it comes to the mind or helping people, because he said Scientologists are the only ones that can actually provide help for people. We know that's not the case. So whatever, Suri is probably better off taking a step back from what looks and sounds like a whole bunch of toxicity in that family. So you do you, boo. Suri, you get out there, you go to college, we get an eye on you, we got you, girl. We're not gonna let Scientology get near you. I doubt her mother will as well. All right, let's take a look. Do you guys watch Pitch Meeting? Anybody? Show of hands, Pitch Meeting here on YouTube. It's such a funny channel. There is a pitch meeting for Battlefield Earth. In case you ever wondered, if you were unfortunate enough to have seen the movie Battlefield Earth, written by L. Ron Hubbard, that John Travolta was in, then I'm so sorry. I saw it when I was in Scientology still, and I thought it was horrible. As a Scientologist, many of us did. We just weren't allowed to say or talk about it. Well, Pitch Meeting did a little video about what they think it would look like or what it looked like during the pitch meeting for Battlefield Earth.
So, you have a movie for me? Yes, sir, I do. It's called Battlefield Earth, and it's based on a novel by L. Ron Hubbard.
I didn't know he wrote books. That's my favorite Muppet.
He's not a Muppet, actually. He's the founder of Scientology.
Oh, yeah, okay. They've been watching me.
What? So what happens in this thing?
Well, the movie takes place in the year 3000, and humans were all but wiped out 1,000 years ago by these aliens called Cyclos.
Subtle, I like it.
But there's still a handful of humans left who are basically like cavemen now.
Interesting movie concept, okay.
Oh, yeah, this movie's literally going to turn some heads, sir.
I think you mean figuratively.
No, about 95% of the shots are going to be filmed using
This is something that I didn't know that this was a technique used in filmmaking by some. And I wondered why when watching Battlefield Earth, it just felt so uncomfortable and kind of made me dizzy.
A Dutch tilt.
What? Why? Because that automatically makes shots cool looking.
Whoa, look how cool you look.
Thank you.
So we're going to meet the main character of this movie, this caveman named Johnny Goodboy.
Oh, that's a hero's name right there.
Or an adult film star, but I'm guessing it's the hero one.
It is.
Good. That was in my top 2 favorite options. So all these cave people think the Earth is overrun by demons, but Johnny doesn't believe that, so he takes off to explore.
He takes off to explore and save mankind. Now, I did read the book, and when I read the book, I thought, oh, well, this is good. This is entertaining. Now, it is also one of the only few books we were allowed to read in the Sea organization. So, of course, you make the most of what you have. I thought that was hilarious, though. And sounds like some of you watch that channel as well. Hey, Eric Rader. Oh, it was so funny. It just made me laugh so hard. Let's go take a look at Windy City THETAN Watch, who did a little short. Don't know if you saw it. Sharing about those Scientology recruiters, those body routers.
Scientology and its sidewalk recruiters. Scientology uses a deceptive practice of recruiting. They send their members and volunteers out into the city to hand out propaganda to unsuspecting neighbors. This marketing material often has no indication that it comes from Scientology. Rather, they use their front groups like Citizens Commission on Human Rights, the Way to Happiness Foundation, Criminon, and Narcanon.
There are also, just so you guys know, there are different front groups that are front groups of the front groups. So you might have like the Way to Happiness Foundation, or you'll have the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, but then you'll have Youth for Human Rights, or you'll have some offshoot of that where they try to even distance themselves from the front groups themselves. This is how people out in the community end up being tricked into supporting Scientology and their front groups. Something to keep an eye on for sure. Hold on.
By intercepting this misleading information, he will also educate members of the community. Let's watch him frustrate the Scientologist above.
To learn more about Scientology's dangerous practices and abuses, or watch interviews and protests, please subscribe.
Yeah, that's over at Windy City THETAN Watch. Just great thing. I love when he gets out there and takes the pieces back from Scientology and educates people on really what it is and what they're doing there in the community in Chicago, or at least what they're trying to do there, because let's be real, they're not really recruiting hardly anybody because word is out. Word is out. Now, speaking of hot mess families, it's not just Tom Cruise and his family. L. Ron Hubbard himself had a hot mess family, I should say. And there are some very mysterious things that has happened within his family. Sins of Scientology has covered a few things, but there's another channel as well that got into it about it. And it's Ice to See 33. And here she talks about the mysterious death of L. Ron Hubbard's son. And this is really interesting. And some of you may not be familiar with this. So we are going to take a look at it, and then we are going to chat about it.
Sources who later left the organization have stated,
Oh, hold on. We don't need it that fast. Here we go.
that Quentin was an embarrassment to Hubbard. In fact, upon hearing of his son's apparent bluicide, like I said, I don't believe any of this, Hubbard's only expressed concerns was over the publicity problems the event was sure to cause.
Yeah. So Hubbard, when his son supposedly unalived himself, was more concerned about the blowback to Scientology, the public relations fiasco. What would happen? What, right? That was his big concern, not actually his son himself. And this is a common thing that still remains in Scientology, which you might think, wait a minute, Natalie, what do you mean? They obviously don't care what people think. They shut down roads for no reason. They put manure all around their churches sometimes, like at Celebrity Center, which was kind of weird. Well, no, they do. That is a big reason why in Scientology, and I can speak to this from firsthand experience, when you are the victim of a crime, in my situation, it was an SA incident, they will cover it up and not want the police to be involved because of how it might reflect on the organization. It's all about protecting Scientology. That's why these things are covered up. And it's so short-sighted because what's really happening in the long run is it's culty. It makes it look like a cult. You're covering this up, you're hiding it. There's not justice for the victims. Most importantly, there's not healing for the victims, for that to be able to happen because these things get covered up, which really doubles down and makes it so much worse. Let's take a little bit more of a look at this.
And a lot of people thought that Quentin was homosexual, that he liked men. That was the thoughts. Quentin was found on the side of the road in his car with a hose piping exhaust fumes into the cabin. Like I said, so many deaths happened supposedly just like that. He was unkempt, which people said he was never like that. He always took good care of himself. He was unkempt, unshaven, which to me tells me they probably had him locked up.
Which, you know what? That rings true for me too. That's a suspicion. That's kind of what I think may have happened because that has kind of been the playbook for Scientology when somebody seems to be struggling mentally or not getting in line with what Scientology is saying. We need not look much further than Scott Campbell, who we talked about the other day, who was on the free winds and was held there and was drugged, all to prevent him from leaving. And that ended up not working in the end. I mean, Lisa McPherson, we can go on and on and on. This really shows you that these abusive practices, not just disconnection, but even how you handle somebody who might be struggling with mental health, all points back to L. Ron Hubbard. There are some people when they leave Scientology, they do it gradiently. Oh, I'm leaving the church, but not Scientology. My ex-husband was like that for a while, and then he actually left Scientology as a whole. It's you just leave sometimes like in a little bit. It's like a slow burn. And other times people walk away and they're like, no, I'm done. It's a cult. I want nothing to do with it. It is an interesting story, and check out her channel because she goes over a lot of these scandals and horrific things in Scientology, sharing really good information about it. So check that out. I've got links down below to all the videos that we're going to take a look at, articles and things as well. Now we're going to go take a look at Declare Dave. Why did L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology create an investigative branch like the Office of Special Affairs? Ooh, we should wake them up. Okay, my OSA friends, time to wake up. We're going to be a little gentle with you because it is Friday. It is Aloha Friday, by the way, people. So give me some Aloha Fridays in that chat. If you're catching it on the replay, Aloha Friday to you. But back to OSA, my friends. Some of you might not understand your origin story and where you actually came from and why Scientology felt this need. Because when you think about it, right? You're L. Ron Hubbard. You write this book, Dianetics. You're creating this cult. I mean, religion, as far as he was concerned. Why would you need in a religion a branch of that religion that investigates people, digs up dirt on them, sends private investigators after them, goes through their garbage, buys their garbage, has them followed, harasses them, interferes with their relationships, so on and so on and so on? Why would you need that? Why? That is the question. We're going to take a little look at a video, and Office of Special Affairs, I think you should watch this with us so you can find out too what's up, why you existed in the first place, and what those ties were to the Guardian's Office, which is what L. Ron Hubbard originally created. But then a whole bunch of those people went to jail, including his wife. So the Guardian's Office, when you hear Guardian's Office, think OSA, Office of Special Affairs. It was the Guardian's Office, then it became the Office of Special Affairs, Scientology's investigative branch. Because, right, why does a church need that? Why? Why, I ask you, why? He still has it and doubles down on it. So let's take a look at this. This is from Declare Dave, Love, Suppressive Sherry, and he gets into this. Let's see.
He's defining an organization in Scientology. Up until this point, there really wasn't. The Guardian's Office didn't. I don't think the Guardian's Office existed just yet, because the Guardian's Office, I think, was formed once the Sea Org happened in '67. And that he put his wife, his third wife that he never had. He never had three wives, but his third wife, Mary Sue Hubbard, he would put her in charge of the GO. But he was already creating an investigation section in a cult, in a church, in a religious, practical religious philosophy. He was creating a private or a public investigation section. What kind of church in today's modern age does that, right?
Exactly. And let's say that you're David Miscavige and you had your whole coup back in the 80s and you took over Scientology and you're running it. Why would you double down on that? Why would you still maintain it? Again, in this modern day and age, what use would a church or religious group need for an investigation branch that does those types of things? Same people who had David Miscavige's father followed, right? We talked about this, I think, yesterday. Same group. Why would you need that? That's a question that Scientology themselves never really answer. And I was thinking about it from the viewpoint of as a Scientologist. So I grew up in Scientology. So all I ever knew was that type of behavior. So I thought that, oh, other churches must have the same thing too, because you need a way to protect yourself from enemies or critics who have crimes against Scientology, because that's the only reason you'd be critical about it. That's what we believed as Scientologists, because that is what L. Ron Hubbard said. He said anybody who is critical about Scientology or Scientologists must have crimes against Scientology or other crimes that they're out there committing. So these investigations are to find and turn up those crimes. But what ends up happening is they often become fabricated, because the truth is people are not critical of Scientology because they have crimes against Scientology. They're critical about it because it's a human trafficking cult that harms people. That's why. That's why. And it's not going to end until that is resolved. It's just crazy. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Kim says, is fair gaming in itself illegal? Like Aja sending people things on you. Things on you. Not totally tracking Kim, but fair game itself, it depends on what's done. Sometimes the actions taken. Fair game in Scientology just means that somebody who Scientology says is a suppressive person, that you can go at that person. You can do anything. You can break laws, whatever you need to do to stop that person from voicing their disagreement. So there have been actions taken by Scientology that were illegal to execute this policy of fair game. And this is a policy in Scientology that Scientologists will tell you, oh, that no longer exists. L. Ron Hubbard canceled that policy a long time ago. No, he did not. What got canceled was naming, especially publicly naming enemies of Scientology that could be fair gamed. The practice itself of fair gaming never stopped. It was just a bait and switch and kind of a PR thing that Scientology did to try to show that they're not actually fair gaming and harassing people. So you might hear that sometimes from Scientology or Scientologists who will go in the media later and say, oh, no, that practice was canceled a long time ago. And while they're saying it, they know they're lying. And the person who's the spokesperson who might be saying that probably fair game people for Scientology. And they absolutely know it to be true. They do. Let's go take a look now at Oh No Nora. Oh my gosh, you guys. Oh No Nora did a reaction video to the film Orientation. If you do not know, this came out, oh my gosh, was it in the 90s? My friends, can you tell me? My ex-Scientologist, Eric Rader, maybe you remember. When did Orientation come out? Orientation is a film in Scientology that is one of the most cringe-worthy things that Scientology has ever put out. They used to show this to new people right off the street, or raw meat, as they would be called in Scientology. I can't believe they actually showed this to people. Now, let's go take a look at a clip from this because it is hilarious. Hilarious, and shows you how cringe Scientology can be. So we're jumping into the section where it's Scientologists basically saying how great Scientology is. Okay, so early 90s in the chat is what people are saying. That's awesome. Oh, and hey, Oh No Nora, we got you here in the chat. So let's take a look at this.
I always wanted to be a stunt performer, and Scientology has helped me to make that dream become a reality.
Thanks to Scientology, I'm building drug-free bodies.
Scientology gave me
this is Dave Miscavige's personal chiropractor, guys.
His personal chiropractor.
I saw him a lot. He had an office in the same building as Dr. Megan Shields.
the tools I needed to create my own success and happiness.
Using Scientology, I was able to take a small idea and build it into a national success.
Since I've been in Scientology.
Oh, R.I.P. Isaac Hayes.
I am happier than I can ever remember. And the successes, they just keep happening.
Since Scientology, I can get my own message across.
She's a Sea Org member. She's a business executive. She's a Sea Org member.
I thought that was so funny because that often is, you know, they use their own people in this propaganda, in these videos, or at least they used to. Scientology had to stop doing that. Can anybody guess why? Why Scientology might have stopped using Scientologists in their videos? Can you guess why? Yeah, because they left. People were leaving. The narrator of this video, the main guy in it, left Scientology, Larry Anderson. This is the orientation film where at the end, Scientology thought it was appropriate for, you know, the person narrating to come out at the end and go, you could just leave right now, right? Speaking to the audience who just saw this film. And you could also, and I think he uses some example, I'm paraphrasing, but like jump off a bridge or blow your head out. I mean, it was, when I first saw it for the first time, I think it was at a Scientology event. And even as a Scientologist, my jaw dropped. Like, what did he just say? Did he compare walking away from Scientology to unaliving yourself? Because that's what I heard. And it was. Eric Rader, right? Orientation was so embarrassing. As Scientologists at the time, I was a Scientologist in good standing. It's not like I was in the middle of trying to leave or anything like that. I was mortified. Many of us were. And that film is not being shown anymore because Larry Anderson, who's a narrator, left, and probably some of the other people that are in there too. Sins of Scientology, disorientation film. Yeah. Yep. Completely. And Donut Erica, so cringe. Oh, it very much is. It very much is. Let's now talk a little bit about Scientology and their religious scripture. This is actually really important. So let's all put on our listening ears. A question gets asked a lot about why is it so difficult with these lawsuits and with Scientology? And there is, well, you know what? Let's watch the video and then we are going to discuss this because this is out of a video that Aaron at Growing Up in Scientology did. And he specifically spoke about this. And this is something I've been wanting to bring up and share with you guys.
Because the courts are also prohibited by law from interpreting Scientology scripture. Even the so-called scripture, by the way, scripture, I say it with an eye roll or an implied eye roll because Scientologists don't speak that way. Scientologists don't actually use words like scripture. L. Ron Hubbard wrote policies and they call them policies. But when Scientologists are speaking to reporters, journalists, and judges, they say religious scripture. So the Scientology policies, AKA scripture, that Scientology claims govern this religious arbitration process, the judges aren't even allowed to read these policies, read the policy on suppressive persons, read the policies on enemies and fair games, and actually make a legal decision as to whether this is a fair arbitration process. They're completely prohibited from engaging in this level of due diligence in order to make rulings about Scientology. It's maddening.
It is absolutely maddening because, again, picture that, right? You're in Scientology, you're out of Scientology, you experience abuses, things that weren't okay. You want to sue Scientology, but when you go to court, they're like, well, we cannot interpret whether or not what they were doing is okay or not okay because it's religious scripture. Nobody in Scientology ever refers to it as scripture, not one time, unless they're speaking to the media, speaking to an outside organization and try and position themselves as being actually religious. And it's so convenient that it is scripture when it comes to having courts not interfere. And then at other times, it's not scripture. It just depends on how it works, how it fits for them. But this is a big reason why it's difficult in these lawsuits against Scientology, because courts have their hands tied. They're not able to look at it and say, this is okay or not okay. Now, how we get around that, I don't know. I don't know enough about the law and all of that. But there has to be a way, because Scientology has spent decades and millions of dollars with lawyers to craft this system and create it this way by coming out with those agreements, this fake arbitration that never ends up happening, or when it does happen, you're set up to fail. There's no such thing as a fair arbitration in Scientology because it's made up of people who are in Scientology. And a Scientologist cannot support someone who's been declared a suppressive person. They're not even supposed to speak to them. They fair game them. So how is an ex-Scientologist ever supposed to get any justice against Scientology in that way if they're forced into religious arbitration? I think we just need more people or more legal minds to figure this out and keep persisting in exposing Scientology, and especially on this point. But if you're going to get asked, the more you learn about Scientology, how have they been allowed to do this for so long? Because they're hiding behind this idea and concept that it's part of the religious practice. Disconnection is part of Scientology's religious practice. It's part of their scripture. Oh my God, I cringe just even saying that. We would never have said that as Scientologists or even thought of it that way. Maybe some, the like true extremists, but they still would not have used that word. Scripture. It's not. It's the ramblings of L. Ron Hubbard. All right. Did you guys see Tori Magoo? Did you see her yesterday outside Big Blue? She went out there and did her own protest, and she was so cute, and she dropped some gems. She did. So we're going to take a look at that. Let me grab a few things here first. Capricious Caroline, question, are mods volunteers or are they compensated somehow? They're volunteers, which is absolutely fabulous. Let's see. Anna, no. I get the family thing. I'm actually friends with my husband's ex-wife. It can be a beautiful thing. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm going home to Hawaii to scatter Tony's ashes with his ex-wife and the boys. She's a boy's mom. All right. Let's see. Is Landmark a front group? No, not for Scientology. Now, you have to make your own decision on whether or not you think Landmark is a cult or not. I have been wanting to do a video about it and talk to a few people, but everything that's been going on, I've just not had the bandwidth, but I do want to do that. But it's not a front group for Scientology. No. Where that comes from is it comes from they were originally EST, and EST was started by an ex-Scientologist. So that's kind of where that tie from Scientology goes, just like how Keith Raniere, who created NXIVM, studied Scientology prior. It's like they went, what is the most culty group or recent cult leader that seemed like he was semi-successful, and took a few notes out of his book and then went ahead and created their own cults. Cooler by the Lake, did Mitch make that film? Gross. Orientation? I don't know, actually. I don't. Oh, no, Nora, if you're still in the chat or caught up, can you let us know? I don't know, or if anyone else who knows, because I really don't. Ripple in Still Water. I love that name. Mahalo to you for becoming a member. I truly appreciate that. Keep an eye out for members-only content, especially on the community page. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to move on. Then I'm going to grab some more questions. Except eat more pizza now. My scripture includes my famous crust and sauce. Oh, I get that. Oh, Declared Dave loves suppressive Sherry says Brisker also made. So he did make the orientation film. Okay. Brisker also made the replacement version of the orientation film that only has paid actors in it, and it is more of a narration film. Isn't that funny? They had to go to paid actors because too many Scientologists were leaving that they had in there. Look at their What is Scientology book. I'm pretty sure they had to redo it because they had people like Mark Headley was playing the role of Jesus in the book. And it's too much. Until they had to go to actors, which is absolutely hilarious. You can't trust your own people. You're hemorrhaging people who are leaving that way. Okay, back to Tori, though. Let's go back to Tori Magoo here. Tori headed out to Big Blue. We're going to look at a couple clips because, like I said, she dropped a couple of really great gems.
Because there's so much shit going on. It's not positive. I decided I'll do something positive. I'll come by and have my own single positive protest. You're back. That's right. I'm glad, Tori.
She's just so cute. I can just hardly stand it. She's so cute. Now take a look at this, because she actually was talking about, I don't know how many of you know that Tori actually lost her husband to Scientology, her husband of many years, decades, and all of her friends.
If it's bad, leave.
When she left Scientology, like many do. But I don't know how many of you actually know, like it truly was heartbreaking for her. It was devastating. I mean, honestly, still to this day. Let's take a look at what she says about that.
If it's bad, leave. Get out. These people, get out. And I tell them all the time on my videos, open the door and walk out. because you think in your mind, you can't leave. Many of them will lose their friends and family, like I lost my husband and all of my friends. So people, I'm sure they use me as, well, if you want to be like Tori and lose all your friends and your husband? And they go, no. So then they stay. But I finally had seen some really evil stuff they do. And I just said, I did not get into Scientology to stop free speech. And no, I'm not going to do it. I can't.
Just absolutely love that. Definitely go check it out. I think we got one more gem from Tori, which is what her experience was like with the anonymous protest back.
Movie that they look.
When Anonymous started protesting. Give it a listen.
Movie that they look like it's V for Vendetta. Have you ever seen that? That's it. So they're all sitting there looking like V for Vendetta. And the people, it's okay. And the people on the subway are like totally freaked out. And I get on with my little sign saying, stop hurting families. Scientology, stop hurting families. And I say, ladies and gentlemen, these people are good. We're with them. We're protesting the Church of Scientology. And they all start clapping. And this was in 2008. It's a long time ago. Yeah. And they ended up with 500 people at the end of the block, right up L. Ron Hubbard Way on Sunset. Wow. And some of us, and 9,000 people around the world. Every major city in the world had anonymous protesting in that day. Awesome. It was really good. So that changed everything for me, because before that, people just wouldn't believe me. I'd say something.
Yep, that's very true. Very true. This is something I can share this with you guys. So for a lot of people that are in Scientology, when they even try to share, if they do, with friends and family who've never been in Scientology, their experience, especially if they were a staff member or they were a Sea Org member, or even just a public Scientologist who maybe experienced the chase wave where they were just racking up people's credit cards without their okay, going ahead and having limits increase without their okay, getting credit cards in the names of Sea Org members, and then lending that money to people to pay for Scientology without their okay. All of these things, even when they know that this has happened, they believe that it might be only them that it's happening to. But that fear of losing or thinking that they will lose, and that it does. I mean, Tori lost her husband to Scientology, who's still in Scientology. He did not leave with her. She thought that he would. So it's a very real thing with disconnection. So many people leaving Scientology, they want to leave and take care of themselves. And they should. And sometimes it takes layers of getting to where you can really see how insidious Scientology is, what those practices actually mean in the real world outside of this high control group. Because when you're in it, it is normal to you that if you did not get your statistics up, right? If you weren't doing what you needed to be done, that you would be put on rice and beans, or you would have to stay up late or overnight doing some kind of cleaning project, somehow make amends in some way for not getting your statistics up. And those are the more mild things that happen. I know when I first left and I told some of my friends who were never in Scientology just a few things, they admitted later that they had a hard time believing me until Leah Remini's show came out, Scientology Aftermath. And then they saw those stories and were like, whoa. And I'm like, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So that is part of the process. Because when you're leaving, when I left, I can use myself as an example. There's some things I didn't see as abusive because I was so ingrained in me from childhood that that's just what you did. Like training routines with children and getting them to the point where they don't react, where you don't have a reaction, where you stifle your emotions and you don't let them out. And you just pretend that everything is absolutely fabulous when it comes to Scientology. So let's see. Now let's go over to L. Ron Hubbard Way with Audit LA. Audit LA here on YouTube. She made an excellent point and gave us a great visual on how with those street closures on L. Ron Hubbard Way, how in the world is an ambulance supposed to get through? Ambulance. I always used to say ambulance or calculator. And then Tony's boys actually corrected me years ago. They're like, it's ambulance, calculator. I digress, but for some reason I always had trouble with those U's. So now I always remember ambulance. Okay, I'm digressing here. Let's go take a look at this. Is a great visual.
Okay, so here I'm an ambulance, okay, because Jason has stubbed his toe and he needs me. Okay, so I'm here. I'm like, have to hit the brakes. Have to hit the brakes.
35. We have a lap street unable to get to the beach.
Okay, so
35 almost here, Roger.
He'll do the radio calls. So what do we do? Okay, so the ambulance drives over here. Like, Jason has a stubbed toe. He needs his ambulance right away. So I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to be, oh, wait a minute. Okay, well, we can move these things. So pretend we're moving these things. We're not going to actually do it, just in our imaginations. That's easy. Right. And then we're like, here we go. We're coming, Jason. We're coming. We're coming for you. Uh-oh. We can't get through there. So we're going to have to kind of, okay, we're going to get this ambulance turned around. We have to kind of back up, turn around.
It just can't get in there. What's up with that? So I'm glad she did that and gave a really good visual. And that's definitely go check her out. Link down below so you can see the full video as well. Let's see here. Purple Light says that Shalice from Cults to Consciousness was a paid actor for a Scientology movie. No way. Wow. I wonder how that happened. Oh, I'd like to hear that story. If you know where she shares that, I would love to see it. If it's a video, can you send me a link? Natalie at lifeafteraccult.com. And please, if you see something, say something when it comes to Scientology or even other cults that catch your interest, whether it's a video, send me a timestamp or a clip. You can email those things to Natalie at lifeafteraccult.com. And I appreciate it when you guys do that. Let's see now. Oh, and Nora is saying, I'm pretty sure orientation was Mitch's art. Yeah, I think you're right. A couple other people who had said that as well. I could not recall. All right, let's go look at Boston now. Boston Auditor K, that is the channel name here on YouTube, runs into somebody. You know how we see those? And in fact, we're about to look at some hilarious Scientology wins, but sometimes Scientologists get together and they do these videos promoting Scientology internally or photos, and they have fundraisers and they dress up. And you know what? Props to them for trying to make it fun. And anyway, she ran into somebody who she had seen earlier, who I think was a lobster. But this is kind of funny. Let's check it out.
Oh my God, look at that. Hey, I saw your photos from the party on the 15th. You guys looked like you had fun. You were a cute crustacean, sir.
I wonder, they look like two people on course, maybe. I want to say they're not maybe staff members because one's holding in what looks like a clipboard. So they might be out either doing a Scientology drill. Let's see.
Enjoy your day. Look, it's my little crustacean. He was a little lobster at the party. They looked like they had so much fun.
So in Scientology, when they're doing courses, when you do a course in Scientology, you're usually working with somebody who's referred to as your twin. That is the person that you're going to go back and forth and do drills with, that you're going to practice things with. Do you guys remember in Chicago when the Chicago org opened their ideal organization? There were some kids from the college who went in and took some video, or it was video or photos. I know I highlighted it, of the dolls in the course room. Because in Scientology, when you do certain drills, like you're learning how to give, say, a touch assist, which is feel my finger, and you put your finger on thank you, and then feel my finger, thank you, on the other part of the person's body. Scientologists will first practice this on dolls. Or if you're practicing delivering Scientology auditing, right, what they called their counseling, you will practice using a doll. So if I'm the coach and the other person is the student, I will hold the doll who pretends to be the person receiving the Scientology auditing. So when they go out, when you see two Scientologists together, especially if they're holding a clipboard like that, they could be doing a Scientology procedure, a drill. There's drills you do in Scientology where you go out with a clipboard and you do these surveys where The purpose of the surveys, it's not about the answers so much. It is about training the person to spot that person on L. Ron Hubbard's emotional tone scale. You try to figure out where they are. Is this person in anger? Is this person in antagonism? Are they in grief? What's the deal? So you go out there with this clipboard like those two had, and you ask things like, what's the most obvious thing about me? And then they tell you. And then through that conversation, the questions themselves are somewhat benign. You're supposed to determine, does this person look downcast? Do they look sad? Do they look angry? Do they seem content? And then you evaluate that, and then you let the coach know, and then, you discuss if you kind of got it right or not. But you are drilled. This is another interesting thing in Scientology that doesn't make a lot of sense. So if you were in Scientology like myself, we did so much training in Scientology to try to understand other people, yet we're not able to freely communicate with them about it. So what is the purpose of a drill like that? To determine where somebody is on an emotional tone scale when you're not allowed to show any empathy or compassion if somebody needs that. That is not part of the Scientology equation. If somebody passes away, if there's a loss, if there's something devastating that happened, it is very much, and you're addressing it in a Scientology session, it would go something like this. I'm going to be the auditor. You guys are going to be the pre-clear or the PC, as they're called in Scientology. And you're telling me you're upset because your dog got hit by a car yesterday and may not make it. So I'm doing the e-meter, and you're like, yes, my dog, blah, 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 got hit by a car. I'm not sure if my dog's going to make it. Here's me as the auditor. Okay, thank you. And then you either ask for details on it, or you say, is there an earlier similar time that you lost a pet or something like that? No, I'm so sorry that happened. What do you need? How can I support you? Nothing like that. That's never the reaction. So for many of us who were raised that way, we actually had to learn what would be appropriate to communicate in those ways. Have to learn what compassion is, that holding space for that person isn't just giving them an acknowledgement of okay or thank you and being robotic about it, which is what we were indoctrinated to do and be from childhood, to be these little robots and respond in these ways that L. Ron Hubbard told us how to respond. And breaking free from that is quite a feat, and that can take some time. That can take some time for sure. But it all starts with finding out what the truth is about Scientology and then making your own decisions about it, looking at your own experiences. Or maybe it's not Scientology. Maybe it's another high control group, right? If this resonates with you and you find yourself going through experiences similar to what we did in Scientology in terms of control and having those feelings and that impact on you, you might be in a cult, or maybe you were in a cult or a high control group. Let's now go look at, you guys have probably already heard about Grant Cardone and his home being listed for, I think it's $42 million in Miami. And there's this article that came out that said, Grant Cardone, Scientologist, is selling home for $42 million. The article went on. In fact, we looked at it the other day and looked at pictures of the house, and it said nothing negative about Scientology. But Grant Cardone couldn't just let it go. He had to come out and get upset that somebody would call him a Scientologist. So Aaron over at Growing Up in Scientology did a little video about it, even with his 10X hat. Let's take a look.
Nothing negative about Scientology. Okay, so how did Grant Cardone respond to this? Let's take a look at it, y'all. Let's see if I can play this.
We're at Miami.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Hey, you guys over at Miami New Times and Alex DeLuca, the Voice Media Group, the owners of this hack paper. Thank you for the coverage on my house. Maybe I'll get it sold. We did list it $42 million in exchange for Bitcoin. You guys,
which, by the way, I think is almost double what he bought it for just a couple of years ago. I'm not quite sure how he thinks the price doubled.
Guys should be ashamed of yourself for using my religion to clickbait for some hits. If I was Mormon, Jewish, Muslim, gay, if I was Baptist, Protestant, or Catholic, you would never headline with that.
No, most wouldn't. You know why, Grant? Because there's a difference between actual religions and Scientology, which is a business, has a business model. And on top of that, the cult model of exploiting people and controlling them through threats and intimidation and mind control. That's why people find it interesting. That is why it's clickbait, because that is exactly what it is. So it's no wonder he got butthurt about that and upset about it. I'm like, whatever. He kind of goes on about it. Link down below so you can see the whole video of him getting upset about it. All right, now I want to get into. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna switch this up a little bit. We're gonna do Scientology wins in just a minute. Wait till you guys see this, in case you've been wondering. What does Scientologists get out of Scientology that makes them stay and keep coming back for more? Surely those at the highest levels on the bridge to total freedom can let us know. We're going to get into that. But first, let's take a look here at Anhata on Fire. I've seen her in the chat. And she has such an interesting story of being a second generation cult member, but in this Kundalini yoga cult, which I saw something once. I didn't finish the documentary, but I saw a little bit about it. And she shared her story with Apostate Alex. And I thought it was so great and interesting what she shared. Her mom got into this cult back in the 60s. We're going to take a little peek at this.
She was 19 and she was looking for, some stability, some direction. What am I here for? Who am I? And she joined a yoga class in LA, thinking, this sounds amazing. I would love to study yoga and learn about Eastern things, because there was basically like 2 books at the bookstore and that was it. There's no other information out there. And she would be learning from a guy from the Punjab. She's learning, straight from the source. This isn't like some white person who thinks they know yoga. This is like a real person from there, right? So he has like all this authority naturally just by existing in LA in 1969 that can be completely unquestioned because there's no Google.
That's right. That's something that got me thinking too about with Scientology and the difference today and how really, and maybe that's why it seems like, I know that the people that I've interacted with who recently have left or are leaving Scientology, it's very different from people who I met back when I was leaving Scientology 14 years ago. 14 years ago, it was starting to really hit more mainstream media, and that wave has just continued in large thanks because we do have the internet. We do have Google. Anybody can look something up and do research on it. And that is a game changer. And then to have so many different platforms on social media, whether it's here on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, whatever it is, of people sharing their Scientology experience, right? Or amplifying the voices of people who had those experiences to show people why it's a mind control, human trafficking cult. All right, now let's go look at these Sea Org success stories. I have to give a huge thanks to the SP chef, Darling Samuel. He went and took this Free Winds magazine and he scanned it all up onto the internet. So big thanks, Samuel, for doing that. Head over and see the SP chef. He's here on YouTube. He has an amazing story of getting out of Scientology, but also life afterwards. And he shares really good information about the cult, especially from the Sea organization and growing up in it, but also sometimes does cooking at the same time, which I find very, very interesting to be able to watch. So let's get to some of these Scientology success stories on the Free Winds. The Free Winds is where Scientologists go for operating THETAN level 8 and other courses that are delivered on the Free Winds. Anybody can go to the Free Winds. You have to be approved, but I'm saying you don't have to be at a certain spot on the bridge to total freedom. You can just, you go. Long as you're approved, it's pay to play. So as long as you can pay, you can play. Aaron the Boss, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. Aloha and mahalo. Charm School Dropout, thank you for becoming a member. Super appreciate it. And again, keep an eye on the community tab for some members only content. All right, let's go look at this. Okay, I'm gonna scroll through kind of quick here to get to that. Oh, well, first you might want to see, these are Scientologists. Running down the beach looks like it's really fun. So the Free Winds does these things where they basically have you come pay to clean the ship, where you learn how to be resilient and other things, but you're basically paying to clean the ship. Here we have quite a few people there who look like some happy Scientologists on that ship. Scientologists from all over the world go there. Let's see. Okay, let's skip forward here. Hold on. Let's just pull this ahead. skip that. All right. Okay, here we go. This is where Scientologists start sharing, like, you know what, man, this is while I'm here. By the way, this is the new Scientology e-meter. I've not even seen one of these in person yet. This looks very different from the ones that we had to have when I was there. I bet everybody had to buy new ones, and the older ones that cost thousands of dollars aren't worth anything. Here we go. So let's take a look at this guy here. Rocking on the routes. He says, with the data I have gained on the ship, I feel empowered to get back out there and take responsibility for my art and career. Okay, I don't know what service he did there, but that one's like, all right. Here's one though. This is operating THETAN level 8 on new OT8. Self-invalidation disappeared. I finally know myself. I would like to take this time to point out that by the time you get to that level in Scientology, it's very possible that you've spent several $100,000, and you spent several $100,000. Why? To get to the point where self-invalidation disappeared. I finally know myself. Honey. I hate to tell you this, but maybe like a couple years of therapy at the most. I think you might have gotten there too. And it's even cheaper. So, but again, you know, you think when you reach that level after all that money, I don't know, wouldn't it be a bit more like, you know, more exciting, more sexy instead of self-invalidation disappeared? I finally know myself. Okay, that's vague, but let's go with that. So let's look at another one here. I am able to enjoy life because I am the one who creates it. I am the one who is cause. Exactly. I feel like in other areas of self-help, even therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, even, it does all kind of start with us as an individual. We're the ones driving the ship. And if we want things to change, you got to change it. Because if you want something to change, you got to do something differently, right? If you want something different, you better do something different. But in Scientology, it's no, let's have you pay all this money and struggle to get up this bridge to total freedom, which is really the bridge to total bankruptcy, the bridge to losing your family, your friends, and any enjoyment you pretty much had in life, because now it's all about Scientology. So again, another one that's kind of like, I don't know, man, you've spent a lot of money and I'm the one who is cause. I mean, yeah, of course we are. This guy looks like he's been around for a long time, and I think he has. He is wearing a freedom medal. What is it called now? Freedom. Oh my gosh, I'm going blank. Freedom Medal. It's the Freedom Medal Award, which you get from the International Association of Scientologists for doing a bunch of stuff and donating a bunch of money. He says, I already had big ARC for humanity. Now, little lesson here, boys and girls. ARC is affinity, reality, and communication. Those things together equal understanding. So when a Scientologist says ARC, they basically mean like their understanding, their affinity for something, their ability to communicate with it, and so on. So he says, I already had big ARC for humanity, but on new OT8, it increased intensely. And I will keep helping people, giving them the knowledge of Scientology so they can reach freedom too. Is it just me, or are these not really saying anything? Tell me in the chat if you're catching this on the replay. I want to hear from you in the comments, especially all of you who've never been in Scientology, because I want to know, is it weird? Is it just me? Because I'm looking back on these things now and like, why are they being so vague? I thought that in Scientology. Why, where's the exact, hey, this changed in my life, right? And you don't really see that. It's also vague. This young lady says, I can truly see the beauty in others, and the granting of beingness toward them comes totally naturally and effortlessly. My space is wide open, reaching, and free. Honey, we know you ain't free. We know this. But again, it's just this vagueness, this just these flowery words of just like, I'm just so free. It's just, they can't actually explain it. So these are people at the top levels of Scientology, but they can't actually tell you what they're getting out of it. Or is it on purpose? Because we all know, right, my friends, what is the first rule about Scientology? Say it with me. You don't talk about Scientology. You don't explain Scientology. You have to tell people, read a book. It almost seems like this continues up those levels because a lot of this, I don't know, you could read a couple books, like even that, what is that one book I read? And I thought, oh my gosh, if Scientologists read this, they would stop paying a lot of money. It's The Badass Book by Jen Sincero. You know which one I mean? I'm going blank. I read it twice. You're a Badass. That is the book. I feel like if Scientologists even just read that, they would kind of get these things for like $12. Buy that book. Read that book. Okay, let's look at another one here. Another young lady on new OT8. Well, she's young for somebody who's done OT8. On new OT8, I gained my freedom again after searching for it for so many years. I realized that I am a simple, free, and immortal being. Girl, I know I didn't pull that one up, so let me show you what she looks like here. Hold on. There we go. So she does a couple $100,000 plus of Scientology to realize she's a simple, free, and immortal being. Okay. You a simple, free, and immortal being. All right. Doesn't it seem like a lot of money, though, to kind of get to that point? It's just so bizarre. Gerald, yes, mystery sandwich. That is a thing in Scientology that they'll try to do is you got to create a mystery sandwich. So people want to hear about it. Hey, Chow Yun Smut says Freewinds was recently in dry dock thinking she must have been having more asbestos shoved into her. The old stuff wasn't effective anymore. Yes, asbestos on the Freewinds has been an issue. I just love hearing what you guys have to say about that. Yep, exactly. You guys are so right. It's just bizarre. It's bizarre. I think that's is that kind of it there? And they're all the same. I feel so grounded and yet so free that I can spread my wings and fly as high up as I possibly want. The winds keep coming, and new OT8 is truly a gift that keeps on giving every day. But what is it giving you? What is it giving you? I just want to know. Here's a dude. New OT8 was so special and uniquely addressed to me. When I discovered what this level is all about, I experienced so many tears of joy. No, man, I think you experienced tears of realizing you paid for this and you shelled out all this money, and this is actually what you're getting out of it. It's just bizarre. Exactly. Donna says, I hate to tell that lady, but I got the same message from Jesus for free. Hi, beautiful Natalie. Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. And so many others. These are messages that some of you may have realized yourself. Did you know that some of you may have already achieved operating THETAN level 8? If you know this, if you feel these same feelings, you have already gotten there, and probably for a fraction of the cost. So well done to all of you. Hip, hip, hooray. Charm School Dropout. I love that name. Mahalo for becoming a new member. I appreciate that. Let's see. It's Mike Sandoval. Where is the person that all that Scientology has made perfectly happy? Right? Where are the success stories of going through my Scientology training? It's made me a better mom. I'm able to understand my kids more and interact with them and find maybe some tools so that life doesn't seem so difficult and challenging, and I'm not beating myself up and second guessing myself all the time as a parent. You don't hear things like that. It's very general and no actual real world application that I can see. We're going to keep looking. We're going to keep an eye on this and see. Before I forget, people, I want to let you know that on Saturday, July 13th, if you were in the Twin Cities area, there is going to be a protest at Scientology of the Twin Cities, which is in St. Paul. Later in the afternoon, Windy City THETAN Watch, I know is going to be there, and a bunch of other people. I and others will be there later in the day. We're just coordinating some flights. It's going to be a hot one. Keep that in mind too. But there's all kinds of air-conditioned places a while to kind of pop in and out of. So that will be, like I said, later in the afternoon, and I'll probably be there towards the end of the day. I think a lot of you are coming for that. And then we're doing Tony's Celebration of Life on Sunday from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the guest house in Excelsior. And I think it's going to be lovely. I'm so thankful to everybody that has helped to make this possible. So many of you did and still are, from people who are volunteering and helping out and all of that. So Nancy, are you pulling those up? Hold on. I think she wants me to maybe grab some of these. So I'm just so incredibly thankful for that. So thank you, all of you, so much. While you're still here, please head over and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and check your notification bell as well. I'm going to be jumping on and try to do some lives to kind of give you a bit of a behind the scenes look at some of the things going on. Eat More Pizza. Thank you for becoming a member. I'm not sure if I acknowledged you or not. So keep an eye out for all of that, people. Thank you so much for being here, for your support, and for continuing to show up and learn about why Scientology is a cult and what we can do about it. I hope everybody gets out there and you have an amazing, I got to find my thing, cult-free day.